Okay, when I went through that last time, at the end of the last short 10 minutes, we got to a point where all of a sudden things disappeared. That, because what I had set on my computer, was because of something called layers. So I'm going to introduce you here to the layer concept by right-clicking on any toolbar, going to layers, and right-clicking any toolbar, going to layers 2. So I've got two layer toolbars here, and these essentially show what is the current layer you're drafting on and a lot of other things. But the one I'm going to look for here is turning all layers on. So I'm going across layer walk, layer freeze, layer off, layer lock, layer unlock, layer match, change the current layer, layer isolate, layer unisolate. So you've got a lot of different layer commands here. However, the most important layer command to get is the layer properties manager, which is right there. And what you can do is, what happened there is, if you click through to this setting here for the object layer, that got turned off. So I'm turning that back on. All right, and I'm going to left click on that old thing I had sitting out there, right click and erase. So now you're back to this point where you start to see where things are at. We realize this piece here, we didn't fill it correctly, so we can right click, holding down the right mouse button, fill it. Remember, the radius is set to 0, so we can just hit click, click, and you're good to go. Alright, the last thing we've got to do on this piece before we flip it over onto itself is to figure out where all those holes are. Those holes are dimensioned as a distance from the top, actually, coming down, and they are also dimensioned going over from the kink point, if you would, from the kink point here. So that's this line right here. So it's a good thing we left it around. If you had not left it around, you would actually just have to redraft it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to offset this line over the requisite distance of 0.5, and we're going to offset this line down. So I'm going to offset that over 0.5 by holding down my right mouse button, offset 0.5, which is not correct, 0.5, because I did it from that point there. And now I start to see what visual clue did I do wrong, or in fact, looking at it, it's either my eyes or the piece itself. The visual clue is wrong. It is showing it as 0.5 from that kink button, and obviously it is not. So I'm going to draft it the way it shows it. You will see in all reality it's important to realize, if you're doing a mechanical drafting, the dimensions hold, but you do want to use the visual clues. So I'm going to draft this the way it's shown, as 0.5 over, and then I'm going to draft down 3 and 4 with these offset lines. So I'm going to say offset, typing an O this time, spacebar, 3, that takes me there, and over. I can now, if I want, I can go ahead and extend, if you want to use that command, or I can still do fillet and then do it again. So I'm going to keep with the fillet that I know, right click, escape, escape, holding down my mouse key, fillet, grab this, and that would give me that established center point with a radius of 0.5, or diameter 0.575. So what I'm going to do here is remember, I do have some circle tools I can use. So I can push this out. I can go to the circle tool here, and pull to the center diameter. It's asking me the center point, shift right click, the intersection, and I can put it then at a radius of 0.375. Right? And now I'm going to finally use, you could go now and just offset this down an additional 1, which I'll do. O space 1, I'm offsetting 1. And now I can use my grip. I could draw another circle, but it probably makes more sense for me to left click on this, left click on the center, spacebar, move, and here you see move with copy, so I can say C for copy, and then I can move it anywhere I want. Shift right click to the intersection of that. And now I have those 2 points. All I've got left now is to establish essentially the circle that's at the center here and the circle that's up on the wing. And so one circle is essentially a distance of 1 from the left and a distance of 2 down. So I'm going to do that one next. I'm hitting an escape bar. I'm going to say O for offset. I don't always have to use that mouse. It's starting to get a little bit cumbersome, so I just type O. 2 for distance 2 down. And then it's essentially, they show it as being 1 over. O spacebar, 1 spacebar. Click over here. I can now fill at these. F spacebar, click, click. And now I have the center point to stick that circle. That circle has a diameter of 0.875. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to here, center diameter, shift right click to the intersection, and then give it a diameter of 0.875. That's one circle here. The last one is a couple of offsets. It is an offset of 0.875 and a diameter of 1.125. So O spacebar, 0.875, offset here, and then draw a circle again, center diameter to the intersection, and then we have what then is a diameter of 1.125. Now, I'll finally go ahead and clean these things up, get rid of some of these reference lines, and do something called a mirror, because essentially this line right here is not there, and the circle we have going outside. So amongst the things you can do, I'll go ahead and show you something here that's not, I haven't taught, and that's the break command, because I think it's pretty useful to use the break command and extend, making sure all your snaps aren't off. I hold down my right mouse button, I say break, and I can go something like this, spacebar break, something like this. And what you'll see is I'm expecting you to stumble on that a little bit, because depending on the direction you go in a circle, you might have an issue. You could have done it by a number of different ways as well. I'm left clicking, right clicking, erase, and I'm going to now show you to one more thing that is not on the mouse. It's the app. There it is. It should be extend. If it's not there, the command is extend. Extend, and I want you to learn to look at where it says select objects to extend to and say screw that by hitting the space bar, and then click what you want to extend. At this point, I can get rid of that line. If I want, I'll do that later. I'm going to change this, left click, left click, left click, left click, right click, properties, and then change that all to the layer called object. Escaping out by hitting the escape key. I'm going to get rid of most of these lines, though very often you could just leave them around and hide them on a different layer. Left clicking, you're almost running out of time. Right click. You only get 10 minutes on YouTube. So I'm going to left click, left click. The last step is to highlight everything, click on something, spacebar, 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 mirror, C for copy, holding the F8 and down. Thanks for listening.